So now I am at the airport. We are getting ready to leave Joburg and head to Cape Town. It's about a 2-hour flight, so I will catch y'all later.
I attract money, wealth is in my reach. I got everything I want and everything I need. I keep my mind open, abundance overflows. I budget right and I know where all my money goes. I am debt free.
From the late 60s onwards, this was a time where South Africa was going through major social unrest. We had a lot of violent political protests happening. We had the Sharpeville massacre in the 60s, where a group of Pan-African Congress members, which is a branch out of the ANC, decided to march to the Sharpeville police station and burn their passbooks. Because they started calling these passbooks a dom pass, which means a stupid pass. They don't want to carry this around with them wherever they went. So they threw their passbooks on the fire, and then the young white policeman that was at the police station that day, apparently they were quite rattled because there was a violent protest that happened a few weeks prior to that. So they then ended up opening live ammunition onto the crowd, and 69 young people lost their lives that day, an additional 180 injured. On that same day, the people in Langa and Cape Town, they heard what happened in Sharpeville. So in solidarity with what happened in Soweto, they marched to the Langa bus stop, and they stood like this at the bus stop, like how we're standing here now. Now, back in the day, black people couldn't gather in a crowd like this in public, because it was seen like you are conspiring against the state. So then an additional 2 people were killed in Langa that same day, and a lot of people injured as well. So every year we celebrate Human Rights Day now, on the 21st of March, when the Sharpeville massacre.
It's my birthday.
So from the 60s onwards, major social unrest happening, a lot of violent protests. It's also sort of after the Sharpeville massacre that Mandela became sort of less passive in his anti-apartheid approach. Because prior to that, Mandela was very non-violent, very passive against his anti-apartheid approach. But it's after the Sharpeville massacre that, realized if this is how they're going to approach us, but then I have no choice to also go and gather arms. So that's then when Mandela left the country to go to East Africa to get trained in the military warfare. And that's when he came back from the training that he was then caught out by the police for leaving the country without permission and, conspiring against the state. So major social unrest happening from the 60s onwards. So Desmond Mpilu Tutu, he was inaugurated as the first black archbishop of the Anglican Church in 1986, right in this church behind us here. So this was also not a decision by the, European Church Council, by the South African Church Council, but it was like the European branches of the Anglican Church that in form of protest elected Tutu to become archbishop. So this was quite a symbolic role because of where the church is situated. Was technically, illegal for Tutu to be archbishop here. Also, the church is literally a stone's throw away from our parliament building. And right around the corner is the Dutch Reformed Church, which was preaching an entirely different message from the Anglican Church at the time. That white men are superior to people of color. Because they sort of used the Dutch Reformed Church to rationalize their apartheid ideology. Like the church will preach on a Sunday morning, nations are created by God and should therefore be preserved inviolate. Hence, racial and cultural separation because, every nation has the right to, spiritually and culturally uplift themselves separately. So they sort of use the church to, bring about their ideology. So that's why Tutu's role at the Anglican Church was so symbolic, and, he soon started using his role to bring about his objective, which was standing for a democratic and just South Africa where everyone had equal political rights. So soon the church became a place where political protests would start from, and where activists would hide out at. Because also, ironically, the only thing the apartheid government prided themselves in was being Christians and respecting places of worship. So once the people would be in the church, they would sort of be exempt from being, arrested immediately. So one of the last memorable protests that happened in the streets of Cape Town was in September 1989, quite late. It was called the Purple Rain Protest. Not the Prince song, but name inspiration did come from that either. So the Purple Rain Protest 1989 were 4 days before our election. So people were protesting that only a handful of our people were still allowed to vote at the time. So people of mixed backgrounds, African, Indian, colored, white, all came into the city of Cape Town, in a peaceful protest. So the protest actually started down in Green Market Square, all the way down St. George's Mall where we started our tour, all the way up Whale Street behind us here. So it was a massive crowd. So now the police had a problem. There was no way they could arrest everyone at the same time. They're like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Let's call in the fire department. So they called in the fire department. The fire department came with some water tanks. Then they decided to take it a step further. So they added some semi-permanent purple dye into the water. So that once they spray the crowd, if you have a purple spot on you a day or two after the protest, you know, they can come to your workplace and arrest you because you were at the Purple Rain protest. So it's actually quite a clever scheme of this. So the crowd was sitting down, you know, singing their songs, and then they opened up the water tank onto the people, and you know, everyone was purple, bursting out of each other. But one brave protester, he managed to make it past the police and on top of the water tank. So then he turned it back onto the police and onto everyone. So their plan actually didn't end up working that day because then everyone in Cape Town was slightly purple. Buildings down St. George's Mall, the church, the parliament, everything.
Oh, wow.
So the next day, there was graffiti all over the streets of Cape Town saying, "The purple shall govern." Now this was a clever play on words on the African National Congress's Freedom Charter. The people shall govern. So about a week after the Purple Rain protest, Desmond Tutu himself led another massive peace march from the steps of the crypt. We'll walk past the crypt just now. So this was also a big march with all the different religious branches, you know, Jewish, Islamic, Christian. That was also a massive march that led up the streets of Wall Street. The church today still very active and vocal in things that happens around the entire world and Africa. Before we head into the church, just how Desmond Tutu became Archbishop is also actually a very nice little story. So, you know, Desmond Tutu was going to be a teacher. His father was a teacher in Pilanesburg. So like his father, he was going to be a teacher. Now, back in the day, the sort of, you know, prominent positions for people of color were, you know, teachers, things like that. So, you know, you can educate in your own, you know, community. Like a lot of my old aunties are also retired teachers. So like his father, he was going to be a teacher in the club, you know, studying to be a teacher. But then growing up as a kid, he was very sickly growing up. And then one day his mom took him to clinic. So she was sitting with him at the clinic for more than half a day already because, you know, black kids weren't a priority. Then a pastor from the Anglican church came up and walked up to Tutu's mom and he was like, "Hello, madam, you know, may I please have a look at your child?" So Desmond Tutu has never heard, you know, a white man greet his mom with such respect that, you know, that little experience in his early childhood, you know, had such a profound experience on his life. And the pastor then sort of became his mentor afterwards. That's how ultimately, you know, he changed his path from becoming a teacher to becoming a pastor. Just a little moment in his early childhood. I feel like that's also a nice story of how he actually
It is.
Now, side note, he baptized me in 1992.
Woo!
So yeah, let's get into the
Nice.
church for a sec.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yes, you can. But I think it'll be easier if you quickly go to my land. Sometimes it's
I'm capable of winning, come from humble beginnings, and it doesn't matter where I've been. Success is in my reach, I deserve it. If I can tell the truth, been through 1,000 things, but I'm not a victim, I let go of the pain. I got mountain moving faith. If I dream before, then I can dream again. I ain't gotta apologize for my desire to live a life that I can be proud of, and it's my time, so ain't nobody standing in my way. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past.
Hey y'all, I am here with my friend Joy.
Hi.
She has been vegan almost 15 years.
Yes.
And she is convincing me that it's time for me to do that transition. And we are at a vegan restaurant.
Like you're vegan.
Yes. And I'm going to have my first taste of vegan. So stay tuned. I just got done and it was super, super duper delicious. This might be a lifestyle.
I'm capable of winning. Come from humble beginnings, and it doesn't matter
Here to
what
Langa,
happens.
it's only 7.5 kilometers. From here to Cape Town, it's 12 kilometers.
Things, but I'm not a victim, I let go of the pain. I got mountain moving faith. If I dream before, then I can dream again. I ain't gotta apologize for my desire to live a life that I can be proud of, and it's my time, so ain't nobody standing in my way.
Because the birth of 1948, it was nothing else but the Nationalist Party and the apartheid, because Dr. Verwoerd believes strongly in nothing else. Each and every one should be on its own, the black, colored, and what have you, developed according to separate development. But now, let me cease, because I first and foremost introduced myself. You are not allowed to do that without my consent, because what's going to happen, I'll be taking you to C-section, a section which is predominantly used here for punishing people. Are you with me, sir? Guess what? My name is Ndemi Mzimkulu Kame, but they oftenly call me Zim here in Robben Island and our regions of Zimbabwe. The reason why I'm being associated with Zimbabwe is because I'm pitch black. Assisted to be called by my name when I enter the entrance here. This first door, the second door. When we enter the second door, we were taking our leg irons, blah blah, and given the new shoes, and then we given the new names. New names, I became 1284, while my father was 1184. I served almost 6 years here. Exactly supposed to be 9 years, but it went on concurrent 3 years. Fortunately, we were released because of nothing else, precisely of the then President de Klerk, whom announced on the 2nd of February a statement to the effect that almost all the banned organization then, remember there was a lull in South Africa at 61 because PAC, ANC, almost all active organizations were banned. Are you with me?
Yes.
Then 1990, 2nd of February were unbanned, and also highlighted this point, the ex-political prisoners were about to be released. Mind you, all the way from the 60s up until our departed this place, we were not recognized as political prisoners. We were being called as maximum security prisoners. Are you with me?
Yes.
And this highlights nothing else, the plight of South African government, because they pull out from Commonwealth, and then 1961 it became Republic of South Africa. Right. Now I want to take you step by step. You have been welcomed by various people, but the first people whom you didn't take note is the walls that were says welcome to Robben Island. Now take you along with the Robben, the word itself. When you were the Mandela Gateway, leading your way to the ferry, there were 6 guys whom were calling you, but you didn't respond. Why? Can you tell me why you didn't respond to those guys? They called you.
We didn't hear them.
The seals.
Oh.
The other guys whom we come across here, they walk like that. We call
Penguins.
them
The penguins.
Bishop here. Then they say the bishop, the penguins, the toys. That's where the name, a Dutch word, Robben Island,
Okay.
Yes.
meaning this environment. Do you read now?
Yes.
And where I am right now is where I need to be. My past does not determine wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past does not determine wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve. I'm assertive, yet gentle, and I'm modest, but I'm powerful, and I'm confident in my business. No excuses. Yep, I'm committed. To step out of my comfort zone, I'm not afraid. See, I don't wanna.
Let me introduce you to the basics, nothing else. Then this is the permit. Because in 1948, along with you, there must be a permit. ID, reference book. Do you remember? Now, here is A group. Now, 69/64 billionaire sabotage for 20 years, and then in 1984. But guess what? For me, it was 1284 as in Kame, sabotage, high treason for 6 years. Right? Because the 3 years went on concurrent. Now, in terms of A, B, C, D, I was in D. Now, A and B are much more privileged group. D and C are disadvantaged group. Are you with me? Yes. Now, as I carry you along, I'll introduce you to the diet, which bread was turned out to be like a cake here. One of the stories said by Ongov. Now, it's so interesting here, if you check here, this meal, it's 60 O's, right? Same with meal, it's 12, right? Now, guess what? Here, the difference of ounces, it's precisely because they go hand in glove. Separate development. Remember, separate development. You are an African, you are in colored, you are white, goes with the diet. Meaning, it's the continuation of the very same people outside, that is, they've been fighting for this apartheid system, then it continues further here. Do you read it?
Yes.
Life is not a full bucket of roses. That's what life is. Life has got its ups and downs, ebbs and flows. You know what? Sometimes when I'm sleeping and then I'm checking the best period of my existence, always I went and knocked. The 9 months I stayed in my mother's womb was the best period of my existence, where there was no pain, no sorrow, neither no trouble. Only love was the order of the day. Probably is the one I share with you. Before any tears, let's go to this.
Watching what I feed my mind, good energy. And I let go the people that's no good for me. See, I'm fully persuaded that I can do this. Yep, I can make it. I'm an entrepreneur with integrity. I lack nothing, there ain't no sense of jealousy. I ain't gotta apologize for my desire to live a life that I can be proud of, and it's my time. So ain't nobody standing in my way. Good girl, you got this, and there is nothing that you cannot do. You're strong and you're so smart. You were born great. Everything you touch turns gold. But you gotta believe that even when you don't understand the process, the blood, sweat, and tears are worth it all. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past is not determined, wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past is...
I think I've said a lot, but let me introduce you to nothing else but Rolihlahla Mandela together with Walter Sisulu in the 60s. Here, this pic here presume or it's nothing else but where we are standing, omitting this wall and the tennis court. Do you read me? Then you'll come across with this place. But here, it's further nothing else but the continuation of apartheid as a system. Because if you check and zoom this picture, you'll find here people wear different attires. Then, not only that, people there succumb to nothing else but forced labor. Guess what? Those who wear short trousers were the African people, were the colored and the Indian people, wear long trousers. Meaning it's the continuation of the system, separate development.
Stand in the
Do you
mirror
read
and
me?
say this. I'm capable of winning, come from humble beginnings, and it doesn't matter where I've been. Success is in my reach, I deserve it. If I can tell the truth, been through 1,000 things, but I'm not a victim, I let go of the pain. I got mountain moving faith. If I dream before, then I can dream again. I ain't gotta apologize.
Right here is the first machine all the grapes we contact with. That is known as the stemmer. What this machine do, will remove the berries from the stems. And then all the stems will fall to this part of the machine. And we use pressurized air to blow all the stems up right to the building with this black tube pipe pressurized air. And then what happens after by using the stemmer, we're going to use that machine afterwards. That is known as a crusher. It's going to come around and put the machine for you. And this machine allows a salad to get to the skins. We get to the skins, the grape juice, and also the pits as well. Inside of the machine, we have some blades inside of the metal bucket. That blades will crush the grapes or the berries, and then the pop this open to get to the delicate, fresh aromas of the grape juice, the skins, and the pits as well.
What do you do with the skins?
That's a good question as well. It depends which wine we're making. Making red wine, we need the skins. It's essential for color extraction for the red color for red wine. And for white wine, we don't need the skins at all. But remember, I'm crushing the grapes, so we still have the skins and the pits as well. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you how we make white wine. So to remove the skins, we need to either use a traditional way by stomping on the grapes with the bare feet, or we use that machine in the corner. That is done a balloon press or vacuum press machine. That replaces the traditional way by stomping on the grapes with your bare feet. Okay. But actually, they don't stomp on it with their bare feet, they use boots. Okay. Much more fair as well. Yeah.
So no foot stomping goes on here.
No foot stomping anymore, my dear. It's long gone.
Desire to live a life that I can be proud of, and it's my time, so ain't nobody standing in my way. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past is not determined, wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy.
What's your name again?
Brad.
Brad.
Okay. Same cheese, different flavor.
Which one? This is mozzarella.
We name it Maris.
Maris.
But it's a cheese combined with Edam and mozzarella.
Okay.
Now, do you make this here too?
We make everything here, all the cheese.
Okay.
This is Maris plain.
You make the bread too?
Yeah.
I believe in me, where I am right now is where I need to be. My past is not determined, wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve. I'm assertive, yet gentle, and I'm modest, but I'm powerful, and I'm confident in my business. No excuses. Yeah.
We're going all the way up there.
We're recording. Gorgeous. You doing a panoramic?
I'm capable of winning, come from humble beginnings, and it doesn't matter where I've been. Success is in my reach, I deserve it. If I can tell the truth, been through 1,000 things, but I'm not a victim, I let go of the pain. I got mountain moving faith. If I dream before, then I can dream again. I ain't gotta apologize for my desire to live a life that I can be proud of, and it's my time, so ain't nobody standing in my way. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past is not determined, wanted and unworthy. There is no
I should have been on that side.
It's gonna turn.
All right, here we go. Yeah, this is a little scary. When you're looking at it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Once again, the floor will be rotating. Thank you.
Here we go.
I believe in me. Where I am right now is where I need to be. My past does not deter me. Wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can.
You must smile. You
can eat all day, huh?
See, nowhere else in the world you can get a chance to stand next to a sea. You can plenty. You wanna go, man? You go.
That's why it smells like fish.
Okay, guys, the 9 o'clock boat, the 10 o'clock boat is going.
Okay.
Go, man.
So right now we are on a boat. We're getting ready to head over to what is called Seals Island, where we'll be able to see tons upon tons upon tons of seals. So see you guys there.
I'm capable of winning. Come from humble beginnings, and it doesn't matter where I've been. Success is in my reach, I deserve it. If I can tell the truth, been through 1,000 things, but I'm not a victim, I let go of the pain. I got mountain moving faith. If I dream before, then I can dream again.
Approximately 2 million Cape Verde seals, and their numbers increase at a rate of about 4% per annum. The island
I always smell them before I see them. They smell like the seagulls. I mean the seals.
I ain't gotta apologize for my desire to live a life that I can be proud of, and it's my time, so ain't nobody standing in my way. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past does not deter me, wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve. I believe in me, and where I am right now is where I need to be. My past does not deter me, wanted and unworthy. There is no limit to what I can achieve. I'm assertive, yet gentle.
Look at them kicking dirt.
How do you say that again? And goose for?
and goes.
And goose for?
For thank you.
No.
All of